Thank you for joining. This session in the room right now, we are going to talk about the second visualization tool from Microsoft, and then begin to talk about, is this actually any better than Power BI? So let me start by sharing my screen, and let's get started with that one. There you go. And let me switch here. First of all, a short thing about me. My name is Brian. I'm from Denmark. I run a blog, many blogs, but one of them is decode.bi, where you will find information about real-time intelligence, the visualization tool that I will present to you today, and also other deeper links to, among others, the full reference guide for the KQL language at kql.how. I'm a Microsoft MVP. And also a Microsoft certified trainer. And at the links here at my slide, you will see both my LinkedIn profile, and if you need the slides afterwards, you can find them on GitHub at ak.bi/slides. So let's get started with the session and talk about what I will actually show you today. So first of all, the second visualization tool brought from Microsoft is actually the real-time dashboard. The real-time dashboard bridges the gaps between Power BI, where you see very often you see a hindsight of what has happened, to the need where the business says, "Hey, we want this insights now. We want this within a few seconds. Can you help us visualize these data?" So I'll talk about that in just a minute, and then afterwards I'll jump into a quick demo on, hey, what's this all about? And then I will discuss the differences between Power BI and real-time dashboards. When do you use it? When do you don't use it? And then afterwards I'll jump into yet another demo. If you have any questions during the session, just please write them in the chat, and I'll happily take them during this session. This session is 45 minutes, so I will put aside 5 to 6 to 7 minutes at the end of this session for any deeper questions that we might encounter during the session. But don't hesitate to write your questions, just put them in the chat, and then we can take it from there. But first of all, let me dive into the real-time dashboard. What is this, and where should you use it, and how is it actually built? The real-time dashboard is actually a free of charge, I'll get back to that in just a minute, visualization tool where you don't need a Power BI license to get started. It is built directly on top of the Custo engine, the KQL database in real-time intelligence, and it has a limited set of visualization tools and options to use. But first of all, it is built from the ground up based on the Custo database, the KQL database, and the if you are proficient in Azure, then it's called Azure Data Explorer. It's actually the same database. It is built to support high granularity and event / time-driven data, which continuously emerges in the database from the different sources. It can be your IT device, it can be a telemetry device, it can also be just log events happening on a system where you are beginning to logging events for logins or errorless logins or fraud detection or those kind of stuff. It is actually built to contain all of your data. You don't need to filter your data hardly in order to have your data visualized inside real-time dashboards. If you know the limitations of Power BI, then Power BI, for each visual, you have a maximum data points of 30,000 data points. If you exceed that, so you have 30,001 data points, then the visual will break. It cannot render those kind of data points. But in real-time dashboard, you can render how many you need. It's quite fine. It's also built to do live calculations and manipulations directly on the query, so you don't have to do a full data warehouse process for the ETL bronze layers. Just do the calculations when you need it, and then the visuals will show them to you at an instance. It's built for high data volume. Microsoft has a use case where they have a telco company in the US that where they produce around, I think it's, don't reference this and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's around 3 trillion rows a year they are handling in that telco company in real-time dashboards, and they have 0 ETL processes to handle those after it lands in the database, and they visualize it directly in the real-time dashboards without any further performance degradations for that means. It is built on top of the KQL query language, and if you have ever worked with the KQL query language, then you might know that the KQL query language can actually visualize the elements directly using the coastal language and the render operator. When you use the render operator, the KQL database begins to render the data rather than just giving you the data set as an output. Then you can choose a bar chart, column chart, and different kind of charts. I'll get back to that in just a minute. Last but not least, it is built for extremely fast query times, and this is where actually the big difference between Power BI and real-time dashboards comes to play, because Power BI can, if you want to, have a very, very short auto update setting. I'll show you where to find that in your Fabric portal when we go to the demo. Whereas in real-time dashboards, you don't have to configure anything. It just works out of the box, and you can get a continuous refresh of the data when you need it. I'll also show you that in just a minute when we go to the demo. And speaking of demo, let's jump right into, and then first of all, I'll show you where to find the real-time dashboard and how to get started. And then before we jump back into the slides, I'll also show you how to find the refresh options for Power BI if you don't know where to find it, because that's actually a tenant setting on your Fabric tenants in order to have a very, very short auto update refresh times in Power BI. So, and my Fabric environment is right here. Let me maximize this for you so you can see it and zoom in a bit. So there you go. Let me start by showing you what I have done. Here I have quite a standard workspace, nothing out of the ordinary here. I have an event house with a KQL database underneath the hoods, and I also have built a data stream. This one, an event stream that picks up the demo data set for stock data provided by Microsoft. This is a high data rate data source, which I'm just, without any data manipulation, just read from the data source and saves it in the event house I just showed you. So now I have some data that I can begin to work with. And if I open the event house, the KQL database, you will see here that I have the stock data table available. And right now I have an original size of 1.3 gigabytes. When that is saved in the KQL database, it is compressed highly. So now I'm only paying for like 60 megabytes of data, even though the original size was 1.3 gigabytes of data. I have a row count of around 6 million rows. This is extremely tiny for an event house compared to what it can do. And you will see that this has not been updated actually, because I just started this event stream ingestion this morning. So this should have shown today, but this will update live when data begins to stream in. Based on this, we can begin to render data based on these queries. So if I open the built-in query set and give us a bit of time space here, then you will see that I have, just remove this one and this one. If I take the stock data and just take whatever arbitrary 100 rows, then this is the data set that I have, and this is the data set that I can play with. So let's see if I want to, this is not a KQL session, so I'll just write the KQL scripts and then quickly run through what it does. If I want to summarize or group a column based on another column, then I can summarize this based on just using the summarize function, and then I want the average, and I want that to have a name, average of bid price, perhaps, is then the average of if I could get it to give me there you go, the average of bid price, and I want this summarized by simple perhaps. Then I can remove this one. Now I have the average bid price over 6.1 million rows grouped by symbol. But this data, this output is just a standardized tabular output, and I can begin to visualize this and I have two ways. In the result button, in the result pane, I have this add visual button, which gives me a new write pane where I can select the visual types. And these are actually one of the differences between Power BI and real-time dashboard. In Power BI, we have a very, very vast amount of options to select the visual. And those visuals are very, very visually compelling. You can change them with colors, with shadows, with paddings and margins, and you can have a round border and all those kind of what I tend to call eye candy, which makes it appealing to be read and to be used on a daily basis. In real-time dashboards, we only have these 10, 12, 13 different options. We have a bar chart and column chart, and area chart and line chart. These are just the same with columns underneath. Then we have stats, pie chart, scatter chart, and time chart. Scatter chart and time chart are actually more or less the same because they are based on the same engine underneath the hood. Maps, markdown, heat map, and if you want to go deep and build your own visuals, then we have options to actually add your own visualizations using the Plotly library from Python. But let me just, for this demo, select the bar chart, and then by default, now I have the bar chart to the left, and I can begin to work with that. The options to change this visual is also quite limited, but this is because all the visuals in the CUS database is built for fast rendering based on millions and trillions of rows. So I have a bar chart, and I can then just change this to a stacked bar chart or a stacked 100% bar chart. I can change the Y columns. I can also change the X columns, and I can add and remove the legend, and I can also give it labels on X and Y axis if I want to. If I remove this one, go back to the table, then I can actually give a script to render this exact same thing based on a script. As I said during the PowerPoint, if I use the render and then select the bar chart, then I actually get the same thing. So I have two options. I can either just select the visual in the output part of the screen, or I can write it as a command here, render bar chart, and then I'll get the bar chart as a result set instead of the actual data. When I'm happy with the output, I can now select this KQL query, and I have an option in the top named pin to dashboard. So I can actually pin this to a new dashboard. This dashboard name is just, let's call this toboggan, and the tile name is average bid price. And I can open the dashboard after file creation. And quite fast now, I have my first real-time dashboard created with a tile. A tile in real-time dashboards is just a visual element. This tile, if I'm changing into my editing mode, this tile can then be changed in size, in height, and in width, and it can also go beyond the canvas of the screen. In Power BI, we can only use the screen size canvas, and that's the fixed size. But in real-time dashboards, we can go beyond the screen canvas size with either one visual or several visuals in one go. And when I resize the tile, it will also automatically render, of course, because it just works out of the box. When I have my real-time dashboard open, I can then add a new tile. When I'm adding a new tile, I'm presented with a new KQL statement where I can begin to write my data. So it could be stock data, then it could be a distinct, let me just take 100 rows again. Then I could say, okay, when was the last updated or the last updated for each stock, and also the last sales time for each stock. So I can do that then. Then I can do summarize. Then I can do last updated equals maximum of last updated. And I can also do last sale time equals maximum of last, if I can spell, of last sales time, sales day time, by symbol again. And I have both the last updated timestamp and also the last sale timestamp. If I want to visualize this, then again, it's just a matter of adding the visual. And then this could be, perhaps I want a multi-stat. And the volume column is then the last updated. And then now you can see that I have a tile for each of the symbols, and I get the last updated date and time. And then I need to add this to a last updated, oops, sorry for that spelling, last updated time. Then I can apply those changes. Oops, sorry, I need to remove some of the columns. I only want 3 columns and 1 row. Apply changes, and there you go. Then I can duplicate this one. Duplicate, and then I can edit it, and then I can actually go in and say I don't want the last updated, but now I want the last sale time. Even though these are the same, but now I have, and I need to change this last sale time. So based out of the same query, this is the same query that you just saw, I can now begin to create several visuals and apply those changes. So now I have both the last sale time, let me make this readable, and the last updated time. Let me move this around a bit so we have it. There you go. These times are more or less the same right now because that's just the way that the demo data set works. But this is now helping me to understand that, hey, I have an average bit time and I can see when was that last updated. When I'm done, I can hit save and then I'm good to go. This is now reading data live from my KQL database. If I want to, I also showed you that, hey, I can actually squeeze down the default refresh rate for PowerBI if I want to. So let me quite detailed show you how to find that, because it can be hidden if you don't know where it is. I need to go to my admin portal. Then I need to go to my capacity settings. When it loads. The reason I want to show you this is that that in Power BI you can also get the refresh rate very down to a very short time, and by default it is set to 30 seconds, I guess. And if I then go into my fabric capacity, and then this is my fabric capacity, and then in the Power BI workloads, this is where you will also find the XMLA endpoint. There you go. If you scroll down a bit, you will find this setting, minimum refresh interval. Perhaps I've changed this. I can't remember the default setting, but this is right now 5 minutes. The default refresh interval is the default. Sorry, the minimum refresh interval is the minimum refresh interval for which I can expect Power BI to refresh the visuals in that report. This will of course hit your one lake reads drastically if you set this down to 30 seconds. But I can actually go down and set this into 2 seconds if I want to. Then hit apply. Now the end users have options to auto refresh that Power BI report every 2 seconds. This will give you other problems with your Delta files and the one lake and all those kinds of stuff. So just know that you have this option, but also know that don't change this option just for fun of it and because people are asking you. I would rather go into the real-time dashboards as this one and then say, hey, I can actually do this for you. You have a limited set of visuals, but if you really want that insight right now within 2 seconds and can't wait for Power BI to update, or the ETL process behind Power BI in OneLake, Lakehouse, Warehouse, whatever you're using, then let me build this for you in real-time dashboards. So let me go back to PowerPoint. Then I have a non-exhaustive comparison between Power BI and real-time dashboards. First of all, filtering. I haven't showed you filtering yet, but let me do that in the demo afterwards. In real-time dashboards, I have a full dynamic time range filtering where I want to. I can filter down to the last millisecond, between two milliseconds if I want to. Whereas in Power BI, it's very, very easy to add a filter. But if you want to add a filter on the last millisecond, the best practice here is to have different filters. Then you have one for date, one for time during the day, and one for minute and seconds. And then you have to design those filters based on the user's input. Whereas in real-time dashboards, I can just by default begin to select the time filter that I need. The cost here, let me start in Power BI. The Power BI uses your capacity for the data sources and for OneLake, and it also uses the capacity units for the reads, and then it also utilizes some of the capacity units for doing the rendering. Whereas the real-time dashboards, you're only paying for the event house cost on the capacity units. So whatever query you're writing is generating some sort of capacity unit consumption, and that's the only price you have. Real-time dashboards is free of charge. You don't have to pay for a license or for the visuals to render. You only pay for the query execution against your KQL database. The visualization, I briefly showed you that, hey, I have a limited gallery of visuals in real-time dashboards, and if I want to, I can extend that with my own code using the Plotly library from Python. Whereas in Power BI, I have a rich gallery, and that gallery is always expanding, and it is being updated all the time. And I have a shop and an online store where I can buy or download new and custom visuals if I need so. In real-time dashboards, you need to build them your own until someone begins to build a library of shareable Plotly visuals for real-time dashboards. Data access. In Power BI, we have both import, direct query, and direct lake, and now we have 2 flavors of direct lake, both direct lake on OneLake and direct lake on SQL Server Endpoint. Whereas in real-time dashboards, we only have a direct query mode because we are actually executing queries against the database live when the real-time dashboards is updating the tiles behind the scenes. So the data access is only KQL data, and it is in a direct query mode where the queries are being executed when you update the visuals. Sharing. If you want to share the real-time dashboards, you need to give people access to the KQL data or share it based on your personal credentials. When you share visual, you have 2 options. I'll show you that in the demo in just a second, where you can find where you can select, hey, impersonate as the end user or impersonate as me as the sharer of this visual, and then you might have security issues if you do so. It's up to you, but the option is there. Power BI, it's very, very easy to share both internal and external, and the role-level security on those kinds of is just a part of that sharing experience right out of the box. So let me jump back into Fabric and show you the last bits and pieces in the last 20 minutes. And again, if you have any questions or if I speak too fastly, just let me know and we can take it from there. So let me find my portal once again. There you go. This is where we left off. And so let's find the filtering. The filtering, and in real-time dashboards, it's called parameters. You can see right there that I have a default filter that is just added to all dashboards of time. But there's a problem here, because if I change this to, let's say, this one, the data don't update. Let's do it again. The data don't update. So what's actually happening here is that even though I get a default parameter of time filtering, I need to add this manually to my tiles individually. So let me go back into editing mode, and then I can edit this one. Then at the top here, you will see that this is grayed out. Time range. I have a built-in time range and two parameters called start time and end time. These two parameters I need to build into my query wherever I need them. So if I want to do that, then let me put this here. Where? Let me do last updated is between, and then start time and end time. It should be. What is wrong? Why is this not working? Hang on. The demo ghost is here. Let me try this once more. Where? Last sales time between start time and no end time. What's wrong here? Hang on. Doesn't want to play with me today. This should be start time. Hang on. The demo ghost is playing with me because this is the syntax. Let me try that once more. Between start time and end time. Why is this not working? Come on. Does it really need this one? Live debugging is always funny. Why doesn't it accept this one? Okay, let me do something else because we can't. Let me just say larger than or equal to end time. We should be good to go. No, that isn't working. Did I find it now? There you go. Sorry for that one. My bad. I don't need to use the add signs. Sorry for that one. That was a glitch in the matrix. So now I have added the filter to my query, and I can begin to run this. Now I don't get any data because the time range is set to 15 minutes. And if you remember, then the data set was back to February. So I need to filter this. Let's just say 180 days. Now I begin to get data. So let me copy this one out because now I've added it to one visual. I also need to add this to all the other visuals. So manually apply here and paste and apply. Now I have it, and now I can begin to filter my data. Let's say I want in the last 90 days. Oh, sorry, February 180 days, and this is data set. And I can also say, hey, let's give me 1 year, and then this is the data set. So if you want to do filtering, then you need to do this manually. But what about adding my own filter, my own parameter? If I want to, then I need to add a new parameter. Sorry, the new parameter button is found right here in the top, and it's just called a new parameter. This label, let us say it's just the stock symbol. It's a single selection, it's a multiple selection. I can write in data, it's a time range, or it's based on a data source. Let's say this is based out of a data source, and where should I show this? I want to show this on all tables, sorry, on all pages, or just this one page that I have here. The values should be based out of no, sorry. Let me do single selection. This is way easier. The variable name is simple. I always name my variables with the underscore because then I know it's a variable. The data type is string. That's fine. Show on all tables based on a query. So here I need to type in the query that should give me the results dynamically based on what I want. So again, this is stock data, but now I want the distinct symbol. And if I run this, you will see that I now have the 3 symbols in my data set, and I can begin to filter based on that. The value column, I only have one column. I can now select both value column and label columns. So if I want a different label than the values, then I can select that one. Do I want a select all value? Yes, please. And do I want to also reset to default value? No, but the default value is just all of them. And if I want to, I can copy this sample up. This now gives me a, this gives me a custom query where I can add the value, the auto filter. So let me copy this one out, copy and save. Now I get the symbol as a parameter up here, but it's not added to any query. So I need to add those manually to the queries. And then I need to put in the symbol name here. Symbol. And then you might ask, hey, you are doing, hey, you are doing 2 where clauses here. Is that okay in the custom query world? Yes, it is. In the custom query, you can add as many where clauses as you want. I could also have put in a and here and then have written the query as I want to, but it is quite fine to add more than one where clause in your query. But then the question is, in which order do I add my where clauses? Well, add the where clauses where the first where clause filters the most. So if you have a very large data set and you know that I have only 3 unique rows in a specific column, and the time range is not as hardly filtered, then I would switch the symbol to be the first where clause, because then I'm filtering this in my data set first, and then the query will perform way better than if you put it in the other way around. So let me copy this one out and put it there. So now I have also optimized my query to be, sorry for that, all of there. Now I have also optimized my query to be way faster, because this is, the other way around. This is now filtering my data set even more than the datetime does, and now I'm helping the engine understand what I want to do. If you are trying to train for the DP700, this is perhaps a part of that query of that certification exam question. So notice that if you want to filter on an optimal way, filter where it matters the most, in the first row. So now I can run this, and if I select the symbol for this one, then I'm only getting this one symbol. And let me copy this one out and add it to all the other queries. Go, apply. And the last one here. Is it so tedious to actually build a real-time dashboard? Yes, this is the way it actually works. So that's just the way it is. I'm sorry, but there's also a different way, because, or an additional way, because it would be great if when I click this one, then the other tiles also filtered. Well, let's do that also, because we need to build that in manually in our real-time dashboards. based on the query here, I need to actually tell the tile that when you click something, update this parameter. It is called interactions. It is found to the far right. This one is where we are. No, sorry. This one is a default view, the report view, and this one is the interaction. So when you click something, filter this. So when I cross filter this one, based on the symbol, update the symbol parameter. So this is the column, and then updates this parameter, and then apply the changes. So when I click this one, then now you will see that the other report tiles is also updated. If you want to remove this one, normally in Power BI, you just click this one again, but now I'm clicking as wild, but nothing happens. I need to actually click this tiny button of removing all the filters, and then I'm good to go again. Now I'm ready to share my report. I can save it, and then I can begin to work with what does the end user actually begin to work with. Well, as I told you, Power BI can be set to update auto refresh every 2 seconds. But in real-time dashboards, I can actually set an auto refresh. I'm finding the auto refresh button here. Then I have the option to enable it, of course, and then I have 2 options, either a minimum time interval or a default refresh rate. The minimum time interval is exactly the same as you saw in Power BI, where which refresh interval do you allow on this report? Continuous, I'll get back to that in just a second. Minimum of 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 hour, whatever. So for this demo, let me allow all refresh rate. And then the default refresh rate is how often does the report update when the end user opens this report. Should it be every 30 seconds, every 1 minute, every 5 minutes, whatever. So let me, for this demo, just set it 30 minutes, so I'm not heavily executing queries towards my KQL database when I open this report. I can, as an end user, change this if I need to. So now, if I save it and then I go into viewing mode, then you will see that I have a refresh rate right here. It tells me for 30 minutes. That's fine. So every 30 minutes, all the queries behind these tiles will be executed, and then the tiles will be updated. But now I also have this one, continuous. Oops, sorry. This one, continuous. Continuous would, when I saw this the first time, I expected, hey, this is amazing. So when a new row enters my table, then the real-time dashboard is picking up that signal, and then it updates the tiles behind that scene. Unfortunately, that's not the case. If I select continuous, then I need to zoom in just quite a bit so you can see it. I'm sorry, but look at this area here. Just below the title, you will see that a very quick update circle is emerging. This is actually showing you that every time the tile is updated, the tile is rendered to show you the values, and then the query is just executed again. So this is not an intellectual query update. It's just a query update every time the result set has been rendered. Then it executes the query once again, and then it shows you the data behind that scene. So let me zoom out just a tiny bit again, so you can see what is actually happening. And the data is now updating live as you see it. But all queries are being executed all the time. So now the capacity is really being pushed to the limit to actually return the data sets back to me. So in case of not burning down my capacity, I'll just stop this auto refresh, and then we can relax again. There are similar options in Power BI to actually do this, but then behind the scenes, you need to tell Power BI to listen to a specific measure. It could be last update date, and when that changes, it should update all the behind the scenes visuals. What actually happens is the Power BI does not auto update the tiles or the visuals for you. You need to refresh the report in order to get the new data. So there are some pros and cons on both sides of the world here, and the choice is yours. Rather, if you want short time to insight and you want it now within a few seconds, use real-time dashboards. If you want eye candy, the good old report style, then use Power BI. The backside of the metal here is that the real-time dashboard can only use the KQL database. So the data needs to be in the KQL database for you to use this visual. It's free of charge. You don't need a PowerBI license, and it just works out of the box once you are proficient enough to write your KQL queries. If you don't know how to write your KQL queries, you can actually just use SQL. So let me go into visuals, and in the last few minutes, let me add a new tile. And if I don't know how to write KQL, I can just use SQL. So select top 10 star from stock. Data. Run. So now I can actually begin to work with my SQL world and say, okay, give me the, and then order by last updated, descending, right? So now I get the last 10 rows for this query, and then I can just apply those changes, and now I have a table which gives me the last 10 records in my table when I can begin to work with. When I'm done and I'm happy, then I cannot change the visual, because when I use SQL, the visual is just by default table. But I can then translate this to KQL by just writing in explain on, if I could spell, sorry, writing in explain on top of it and run it. Now the output is no longer the data set, but it's actually the SQL query translated into KQL. If I cover this one out, oops, and I paste it, and then I execute only this one, then you will see that I now have, what is wrong? Oh, it's because it's a tile, so I need to do this one, top run. Now I have the result, and now I can change the tile into something else. It's fine with just the table, so now I have a detailed view into what's happening on my stock report. Save. And now the report is findable right here on the toboggan real-time dashboard, and then the end user can open it, begin to interact with it, set the filtering to whatever they need, and then change the refresh rate, and then be good to go. This is actually the end of my session, because it's only 45 minutes, and that's quite fine. So if you have any questions, we would love to take them. If not, then I would like to say a huge thank you for attending. If you are too shy to ask questions on the chat, reach out on LinkedIn. I'll happily help you there, and I'll also happily help you get started on real-time dashboards.